The judges put forward a verdict on a couple of the elements of Donald Trump's real estate business. The bottom line is he has to pay the maximum possible fine, or at least his business does. His real estate business was ordered just today to pay a $1.6 million criminal penalty for its conviction on tax fraud and other charges, which is described as the New York Times by the New York Times as a stinging rebuke and the maximum possible punishment. Although I think Brett and I are going to have a little bit to say about the maximum penalty. Anyway, if you haven't been following this particular case, or if you're not sure which one we're talking about, since there's a million. This is the particular one where they were looking into the Trump organization enriching its top executives with untaxed benefits, like luxury cars, private school fees, for 15 years. These benefits made up for lower salaries, according to the prosecutors, and therefore reduced the amount of tax the business was required to pay. So this was a way to evade paying your tax liabilities, but still have your executives be happy about all of the different perks that you're showering on them. So one of the executives who orchestrated the scheme, we've talked about previously on the show, this is Alan Weisselberg, pleaded guilty and testified at the company's trial. He has been sentenced to serve 5 months at Rikers for his part in this. But bear in mind that the Trump organization is saying, no, he didn't just take part in this. This was his whole thing. Weisselberg did it for himself, I think was the hashtag that was going around. He didn't do it to save the company money, and certainly no one else in management knew about it. But it does not appear that the judge nor the jury accepted that as an explanation for their actions. And so $1.6 million, I have to assume that is the straw that will break the Trump organization's back. Brett, what do you think?
So the Trump family's real estate business is bad for people living in New York. We need to say this. There's like a series of very famous or infamous Sesame Street episodes where they outline that Trump's predatory real estate practices, essentially eliminating housing, affordable housing for people in New York and replacing it with like Tower of Babel gold-clad skyscrapers, is doing horrible harm to people in New York City. And so what you would expect to at least counteract that damage would be that he's paying taxes, the right amount of taxes, back into the community, so that money can go to at least finding some way to help people that have been displaced by his monstrosities.
Yeah,
that because it's so tempting in like these tax fraud cases for people to be like, yeah, I don't want to pay my taxes either. He didn't. Why should I care? But this is also seemingly a pattern for Donald Trump. I need to remind everybody that he can't do charities anymore because when the guy ran a charity, he embezzled. He took money from charity to buy huge portraits of himself, sports memorabilia. So now the running total is about $4 million or $3.8 million or something in damages that this guy has had to spend affiliated with the two things he actually really does.
Yeah, 100%. I'm sorry, I was a bit distracted. Did they actually do those episodes? Because sometimes I can't tell with you when you're joking or not. Is that a real thing that they?
No, there's Oscar the Grouch loses his trash can to a multi-trash can complex made by Donald Grump.
No, that's a real. Okay, I want to look that up, and I want us to talk about that on the show next week. I think.
And then there's another episode where Joe Pesci essentially plays a Donald Grump character. So there's a puppet version and a Joe Pesci version.
Wow. Well, let's talk now about the actual ruling. The part of it that matters and the part of it that doesn't matter, and the part that maybe could matter, we'll speculate. Let's start off with the part that doesn't really matter, at least to me, the $1.6 million. $1.6 million. It brings in, well, they say it, according to their taxes, it doesn't bring in literally any money and never has, according to Donald Trump. That's a separate thing that should be investigated. But supposedly it brings in many, many millions of dollars every single year, and they did this for 15 years. So I hardly see that finding them for $1.6 million is gonna disincentivize doing it in the future. That said, the judge's arm was twisted or, I don't know, hands were tied. There you go, I knew it was something with the limbs. That was the maximum fine that could actually be levied. Although again, it's not like a coincidence that that's the maximum fine. That maximum was set by someone who probably had some sort of view on what sort of potential culpability the rich and corporations should have. The system is again set up so that even when you finally catch them, and even when you finally prosecute them, and when you finally convict them, it doesn't matter. It's $1.6 million. So that part doesn't necessarily matter. Now, there are some potential consequences that matter in that the company has now been convicted of felonies, I think 17 different felonies. And there are other companies in New York that have as part of their, I don't know, charter or whatever, that they're not allowed to do business with companies that have been convicted of felonies. So unless that were to change, then in theory, this could have consequences on the business relationships of the Trump organization. That is definitely something to keep track of. And there are also, of course, the personal consequences in that Donald Trump was not individually charged in any of this, individually convicted in any of this. It's the organization, not him, but it still doesn't look good for him. He is running for president. They say this will provide ammunition to the other side, although I feel like there's an abundance of that sort of ammunition. And it hasn't necessarily mattered all that much, but what do you think, Brett?
I think he's either in charge and they commit crimes, or he's not as a good enough CEO to make sure his employees are not committing crimes.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.